3:00 in the morning. We're in a hotel. We're in a country that's foreign to us. So we started Googling everything.
And I was pretty insistent that we needed to take him to the hospital.
We got there and we started asking for help. So the receptionist was there. Because it's a foreign language that we don't speak, everything was via Google Translate. And I said, hey, can we please see a doctor? Our son is unwell. He has fevers for the last few days. He's now hit 40 degrees on our last measurement. And to our knowledge, he said, there are no doctors here. Ring the emergency.
I mean, it was, again, a game on mentality because I knew how important this particular call was, and she was only available then and there to have this meeting. It was very much like unexpected situation. Vic, I don't care what you're doing. Like, you can pay them as much as you need to pay them. I need to get into this cafe, into this co-working space, and I'm taking this meeting. Like, you sort the rest out. Hey everyone, it's Julia.
And Victor, and we're multi-award winning entrepreneurs. We own a portfolio of businesses and we also have 2 kids under 3.
As husband and wife, we have decided to start this podcast as a way of giving back and sharing our journey with some raw conversations, knowledge and learnings that we have been having together over the past 13 years of building our businesses and our life together. Welcome back to another episode of Elevate with Vic and Jules. And today we're very excited to unpack our month worth of travels that we've been doing. So for those who don't know, we've just been on a month-long trip to all our very much favorite countries, Vietnam, Japan, and then wrapping up in Dubai. And the special part about this is that we actually took our entire family with us. So our 2 little babies who also turned 1 and 3 on the trip. And then also our parents, my sister, her husband and her kids as well. So it was a whole family affair and really living it up in terms of the saying work-life blend. So today we're going to share a little bit more about how it all went, some hot tips if you are planning to do a big travel with your family as well, but also unpack some of the things that all went horribly wrong on the trip as well. Vic, maybe you can start with where did we actually start off first and how was it?
So we started off at Ho Chi Minh City in Vietnam. So we only had a couple of days there, so 3 all in total, and we packed in a whole heap of business meetings at the same time, as well as family time as well. So there's a lot of activities. We were running around doing a lot of different things when we're talking about work-life blend. This is what we were doing on this trip. Overall, very successful in terms of meetings that we had, the people that we've met. We put on a roadshow, which is all about it's all about the business of events. So how do we actually put events together? How do we actually increase income streams into any industry and any business, which was exciting. And Vietnam had over 45 people attend this event, which was a massive success for us. And then it comes with some of the challenges, which we'll deep dive more into.
Yeah, definitely.
And can you tell us what was the first one?
I think the fact that we packed so much in for 3 days, I think in this ideal world, and don't get me wrong, the kids spend a lot of time with their grandparents, which is great. So we knew that we had great support with us, even though we were in a different country. But I think we just underestimated the fact that culturally, time difference still takes time to readjust. So when we flew straight into Vietnam, we had about, the evening to kind of settle in, saw the family, reunited with our aunties and uncle, introduced Jordan for the first time to the family too. They threw us a massive dinner. And then the next day we were on. We were pretty much like, okay, straight into work, straight into business meetings, drop the kids off with family and let them kind of hang out. And got straight to work. But I think when it all kind of came a bit crumbling down was probably about half an hour before we delivered the business of events and before guests arrived at our dinner venue. I got a phone call from Nancy and she was pretty much like, hey, Jules, Jordan has just been vomiting and having diarrhea nonstop for the last half an hour. And I think in that moment, I was like, oh, fuck, what do I do now? And it was quite a shock because I guess Jordan has been, he's been sick before and, with all the kind of baby fun germs and everything. But we haven't had that particular instance where he has been vomiting and like shitting himself at the same time. And what was worse was like we're in the middle of another country and then at the same time we're about to kick off our roadshow. And I think, I remember saying to Nancy, I was like, what do you need me to do? And she's like, nothing. I just needed to tell you that this is happening. I'm going to give him some Panadol and we're going to just manage it here. And then I was like, okay, do you need me to go? And it really crossed my mind. And I think in the last, 13, 14 years or 15 years of running events, I don't think I've ever crossed my mind where I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave before an event start. But in that moment, I think definitely the priorities of being a mum really kicked in. And I was very much like, if you need me to like leave, I will leave. Like Victor's going to have to sort this shit out himself. But the amazing thing is we did have an amazing village around us and Nancy, such a trooper. She was like, no, you stay, you do your thing. I'll manage it and I'll just keep you posted. And of course I told you about it, Vic, straight away. And I think we both had to make a decision, like zone in, focus. And I think in that moment, guests started walking in and the beauty about the roadshow that we did is that it was all brand new guests. It was all people that we've never met before from different stakeholders. So it was quite important people in the room that we just had to, I guess, put a poker face on.
Yep. And I remember that moment when, the phone call came and you then explained to me, it's like, oh, Jordan's not well. And this comes to play when we're talking about mindset here. It is such an important thing where it's like, do you let it get affected or do you trip her on? There's two things that you can do, like a fight or a flight mode. And there's and it's a training of mindset because we have to be game on in front of the people that are coming to this event. And we're talking about 45 important stakeholders coming to this event. Although on the other side, we have our son who's not well. And the parent trip does kick in quite hard because I was there saying, okay, I'm not here with my child. And same with you, Julia. You were probably more affected by this call. But then we're like, okay, is our son in an emergency situation, right? And okay, we are talking about diarrhea as well as vomiting. It's not good, but is it an emergency? And the answer is probably no at this stage. And then the second thing that we think about is, okay, who's around Jordan at the moment who's unwell? And we're starting to think, okay, we've got your sister Nancy. Her husband was also there, and we've got our parents there, so another two more people. And then we have a family of probably around 6 or 8 people who's already at this, our Vietnamese family who's already there, local to the actual country. And so surrounding Jordan now has about 12 people. Does it really make a difference if we were to immediately leave and be there for our child? And the difference is probably not going to make a difference. But what would make a difference is that we build really strong connections with the people in front of us. What does that mean for business? What does that mean for our entire family if we were to be, if we presented ourselves well? Because it's a one-off opportunity that we have at this moment. So it was game on for us. We had to make that decision where it's like, okay, do not let this get affected. We had the chat. I don't think we're going to help the situation by leaving where we're at now. Let's just continue what we're doing, and it's a 2-hour event, and then off we go, and we'll be back with family and making sure that everyone's okay. So was there anything to add to that, Jules?
No, other than, it was definitely game on for us. And I think, we presented the best that we could given the circumstances. And like you said, it's really around the mindset of like, and I think that's the thing that I'm really grateful in us, because we do have that partnership where we can call on each other and actually go, okay, well, let's compartmentalize this and pack certain emotions away and focus on what is at hand. And I think for us at hand was the fact that we needed to focus on what we were presenting, meet and greet, and, you know, we had to make some deals happen in the room. And we did. And then, of course, you know, let the emotions kind of ride out afterwards when we had to rush to see Jordan. And unfortunately, you know, the back end to that story is that Jordan continued to be sick for, you know, a solid couple of days. High fever. It didn't stop there. And then we had to obviously take a flight to Japan, which was our next destination. And I remember we both looked at each other the night that we were flying out, and his fever wouldn't go down. And we were like, right, do we cancel the flight, which would have been cancelling 10 people's flight, or do we actually just, you know, wear it out and just take him on the plane and deal with it while in flight? And I think in that moment we chose to fly because we wanted to get to Japan and feel like, you know, there's probably better health opportunities there if something did go wrong. We packed the Panadol and the Nurofen and, you know, and huge apologies for people who actually had to sit near us because Jordan did cry practically the whole night. It was an overnight flight for 5 hours and I don't think he stopped crying once, and was just nonstop handing him around between family members. No one slept. He continued to vomit, you know, all over us. I think it like pretty much 3 minutes into the flight, he just chucked up all over me, and obviously disturbing people around us and having to pass him around to family members and not being able to sleep was a horrendous flight. But all in all, I think coming back to the mindset, right, we just kind of went really level-headed on this. We were like, okay, step by step, what do we need to do? How do we need to manage the situation? How do we de-escalate if we needed to? How do we look after him? You know, what are the next steps? And although the flight was horrendous and people were actually very nice about it around us and understanding that he was unwell, we made it to Japan, thankfully, in one piece.
Yeah, so it was a shorter flight than Australia to Vietnam.
Thank goodness.
So, you know, we landed in and I remember it's like, okay, we're here now and the whole family's here. And it was great because we got so much support around us, which is fantastic. And people around us were family as well. So disturbance wasn't too bad. But when we're talking about landing in Japan, Jordan sort of was okay for a little bit. So he recovered, but then he also then went down a couple of days after. So moving on to the next story is this is probably our third day in Japan now.
In
Tokyo. And we had activities all around and exploring the city.
So the one thing people need to know about us when we're traveling is we will pack it in, like business or travels. And we take our parents who love traveling with us, but they don't like walking long distance. We're like, nah, don't worry about it. We're just going to pack it in. So every day, I think you made a beautiful Google Docs itinerary of the days, and you had activities from like breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know, because Tokyo has such a nice nightlife. It was like evening after the kids will fall asleep. He had activities for us on every single day. It was like non-stop itinerary.
Yeah, it was a run sheet for the next month for us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Very detailed. It had all the activities, all the tickets, all the things that we want to see in the timings.
Yes,
so,
you gave us options as well.
Yes.
So if anyone ever wanted to travel with Victor, it's highly recommended. He gave us options of what we could do on each day in the Google Doc, and then he sent it round to the family group chat, and everyone got to vote on which one they wanted to see and do. But the point of the story is that it was packed in. So it didn't allow, definitely didn't schedule in any rest day or the fact that Jordan was sick as well.
Yeah, not when I overseas, unfortunately, because every minute overseas is a experience that we want to explore. So, And this is probably something where we're like, okay, we didn't really account for illness or anything like that.
Yeah,
and
tip number one.
And rest days, which is important. So on our third day, it wasn't only Jordan, it was also our brother-in-law who also was sick at the same time. So they both went down. But what happened was it was 3 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
And Jordan woke up and he was getting fevers that day. And at this point of time, it was up to about 40 degrees. So we were like, okay, now it's like we couldn't get it down. It's no longer a mild fever. It's more like a 40-degree fever. So then we started deciding what we needed to do. So we're like, 3 o'clock in the morning. We're in a hotel. We're in a country that's foreign to us. So we started Googling everything. And
Yeah.
you know,
And I was pretty insistent that we needed to take him to the hospital.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we started searching for hospitals. What are 24-hour hospitals available? Are there international ones? Taking a look at their Google reviews, making sure that there's the right help that we need and the right hospital that we need to go to. So going through this exercise, it probably took us half an hour to go, okay, I think I found a hospital that is open 24 hours because in Japan we didn't realize that hospitals don't necessarily open 24 hours.
There's a lot of hospitals.
Yep.
But not all of them are open. Yes.
So it was only probably 3 or 4 hospitals in Tokyo that we needed to travel to that was open. So I decided, okay, this one looks good. Read the reviews, said that it was open. So off we go, caught a taxi there or Uber there. And on this journey to the hospital, we got there and we started asking for help. So the receptionist was there. It was a male receptionist, and I said, hey, can we please see a doctor? My son, and this is because it's a foreign language that we don't speak, everything was via Google Translate, which was a very interesting experience. So we explained the situation via Google Translate. Our son is unwell. He has fevers for the last few days. He's now hit 40 degrees on our last measurement. And we need a doctor to take a look to make sure that it's nothing serious or he doesn't get any worse. And to our knowledge, he said, there are no doctors here at this time. Ring emergency.
Or no doctors for children, so pediatric.
For children, yep.
Yeah.
So no doctors for children. Ring the emergency, which is like, our 000 911 kind of call. Yeah. So gave me the number for that, and I searched it up on Google as well, and they had operators that speaks English there. So I was like, okay, great, I've got an option here. So I started trying to call. So I used my phone, which was on international roaming. Did not work. It just did not connect. I used Julia's phone. Did not connect. And then I asked to borrow a phone at the hospital. He pointed to a phone that I can use. It did not connect. So I was just wondering, how do I actually call emergency line at this country? Because none of our phones, including their landline, that didn't work.
Yeah. It was actually getting quite frustrating. And again, I think in those moments, we kind of looked at each other and we were like, we're either going to flip the shit and lose our shit at him in the middle of the night, or we're gonna calmly figure this shit out because nothing was working. Literally none of our phones or the hospital phone was working, which was absolutely wild.
Yep. So I was sort of asking the receptionist for help, right? It's like, hey, can you please help us connect the phone to the emergency line because my phones are not working. That the payphone that they had wasn't working. Can you please lend us a mobile or something that we can use to actually call the emergency line? And the first message that came back via Google Translate was, go over there. He didn't really care about us. And that's where we're like, okay, we went back onto our Google searches. We went back onto, once you even used ChatGPT.
Yeah, I think the tip here is definitely to lean in on ChatGPT. And I think it's such an eye-opener because we went into problem-solving mode, which then for me, I was starting to go, okay, instead of trying to Google search and figure this out myself, I was asking, ChatGPT, I'm in this location, find me the nearest hospital that had pediatric that is open now. And then it would pull up certain addresses for us. And then we started, ringing around those particular numbers as well. So I can't believe that in that moment we were using AI to really assist our process and speed up that time frame because no one was willing to help us and no one was able to speak to us in English. But thankfully a nurse came out and was able to kind of support us in that way. And then by that point we also called an Uber because we were like, fuck this, we got to go.
Because we called an Uber, frustrated that we didn't get any help from this receptionist. And I was like waiting for this Uber to come, which was in 5 minutes. And I just said, and I Google Translator was like, I thought that you guys were a hospital and that you're supposed to help people, right? To this person that wasn't helping us. So then I think he then realized that, okay, it is no matter who comes into this hospital, they need to help. So he called for a nurse to come out. The nurse didn't know how to speak English either, but was much more helpful in terms of assisting us into finding other hospitals and actually calling them up as well, and then giving us at multiple addresses that you should go to this one. I've called up saying that that there is an English-speaking pediatric that is available for you. You just need to go here. And at that time, our Uber driver was also there, and he was very helpful as well, saying, "Yep, I'll drive you to anywhere. Doesn't matter. I'll wait for you. You just tell me where you need to go, and he'll drive us there." So now this is 4:00 in the morning, and we're like, okay, we got into the Uber. We then went into the hospital that we needed to go to. We did get served very quickly. Receptionist,
English-speaking doctor,
English-speaking doctor, and did all the tests that we needed for Jordan. Given him all the meds that we need to, and it was then a different experience for us that we were getting the help and we were much more calm, and we thought that we were okay, calm people. But there was two different scenarios that's happened here, which then one has given us the service that we required. Fantastic. But I guess, are there any learnings from this that you found?
Use ChatGPT. I think that would have been much faster. I think if we started with there. I think there was definitely even moments where the nurse came out with a list and she was like, I've got to work out which one is actually closest to your location and all of this stuff. And so I took a photo of her list that was written in Japanese and I actually uploaded it to ChatGPT, and it actually worked out exactly which hospital she was referring to, which location, and prioritized it for me. So it was pretty incredible how we could lean in to AI on these kind of real life scenarios. But then again, I think coming back to it, it was around the mindset and the what you choose to do in that scenario. You can either lose your plot and go off at it, or you can speak calmly and handle the situation calmly. And we definitely went down that route. And I think a big lesson in the first leg of our trip is plan for rest days. For anyone who's planning to do this, is definitely have 1 or 2 days up your sleeves, especially if you're traveling with little kids, to just give yourself a bit of a breathing space. We definitely didn't do that. We were trying to pack everything in, mixed in with business and life, and it definitely made it much more challenging. Added layers of stress that I think we could have somewhat avoided. I don't think you can ever avoid Jordan being sick because, by the way, he had influenza A. We worked that out, which for a under 1-year-old was quite severe. But yeah, I don't think you can avoid getting sick, but it was just about giving yourself a bit more grace and a bit more timing between things when traveling with this kind of intense program.
Yeah. I mean, what I've learned was this experience, how do we translate it back into where we are located as well, is, looking at Australian hospitals, and something that we should be proud about is there is a lot of multiculturalism in our hospitals where there may be a lot of different languages that we can cater for. And we're incredibly proud that we've also delivered the Multicultural Health and Wellbeing Conference, which is really exciting, where these things are actually spoken about. How do different community members who may not know English get their information for healthcare? A really important thing, and we've learned during COVID that it's even more important to get these messages out there. But how do we translate everything into multiple languages to cater for the multiculturalism in Australia, which is something that we're proud of? And we're like, okay, if this was to happen in our country, would we have received the help in the language that we possibly be? And because we're so multicultural here, is that we're pretty confident that we would, or find some alternatives for that. So, yeah, that's probably something that we've learned is customer service in facilities as such, where we're talking about helping people. We've experienced very different ones, and one was really good service, and one had eventually understood what we're trying to do and trying to receive some help, and eventually we did get that help, which we're really thankful for, and then moving to the next hospital. So yeah, that's one experience, and we straight away went into Puro Land, which is Sanrio Land, for all those Hello Kitty fans out there, pretty much the next day, because we didn't want any other family members to miss out on exciting fun.
And once we knew that
Tokyo.
Jordan was okay.
Yeah, and that he was all right.
Yeah, and he was definitely recovering from his fever and everything. So that was a big, big relief. But I guess the work-life blend that we had in Japan was also really interesting. So we obviously had our roadshow, which was later in the weeks of us traveling. But in between, whilst we were in Japan, we also had a lot of meetings that I still had to take for different companies virtually. So I think big shout out to Paige, our EA, who had to keep up with we have 7 calendars. I have 7 calendars and Vic has about 5. She has to manage all of those calendars, and then she had to manage our different time zones that we were in, matching it up with clients or stakeholders from different countries that I was meeting with. And then also make sure that I was actually there on the call when I needed to as well. But it was definitely a beast. And I remember distinctively, I think we were going to find the cat temple.
Cat temple.
Cat temple. Everyone says when you go to Japan, you have to go to see the cat temple. So we're dragging our whole family of 10, a party of 10, in this little village town. And we were going to the cat temple. And then I got a notification on my phone saying you need to be in a meeting in like 15 minutes. As a reminder, and I was like, holy shit, I've forgotten about that. And then it ended up us walking back and forth on a street trying to work out where on earth am I going to get in and have a meeting with internet, a Zoom call and everything. And I had to do a pitch as well. So that was hilarious because we ended up finding a co-working cafe space. You spend a lot of money in there in order for me to sit in there to have a meeting.
So this cafe was probably a 3x3 meter cafe.
Yeah.
Very small area, and the whole entire cafe can probably fit about 10 people, which is our entire
family. Yeah.
So and there was people already inside the cafe having their coffee and drinks and food, while we're sort of like too big to fit in the group. But then we're like, okay, we need a private space to have this conversation, and thank God it was a co-working space because he had more private rooms in the back where Julia can take this meeting. So we're like, okay, let's get into this cafe. And we walked up and down the street and there was really nothing much around except for this cafe. So told the owners, hey, we're just going to order 10 drinks for the whole entire family. We're just going to stand outside, the whole 9 of us, while one person will go in and do this meeting, and we're just going to hang outside. We're not going to bother you. And, they're really big on making sure that we're not blocking the entrance and stuff like that, because that means business for them. So we were really mindful of that. So we're like, okay, let's do this. We spent enough money to stand around for a little bit.
It was expensive drinks.
And drinking, and it was expensive drinks. And then we waited probably about 45 minutes hanging around, and there was nothing around, so we can't really go anywhere and see anything else either, and we just waited around. But it was a really good experience on how these small little businesses in the middle of nowhere there's nothing much around except for the cat temple. But this small business is waiting for people to walk into their business, and it's a very secluded area. So, making sure that we're mindful of that is really important. But the other thing also is like, I feel like we've brought a crowd where the crowd then goes, what's happening at this cafe instead of anywhere else, and then brought in more people. So, us standing around wasn't necessarily a bad thing and not blocking the entrance, and you get to do your thing, and we got to hang and had some nice coffees.
Yeah. I mean, it was, again, a game on mentality, because I feel like I couldn't, and because I knew how important this particular call was, and she was only available then and there to have this meeting. It was very much like, Vic, I don't care what you're doing. Like, you can pay them as much as you need to pay them. I need to get into this cafe, into this co-working space, and I'm taking this meeting. Like, you sort the rest out. I think in many ways it was kind of good partnership, because I was like, okay, see ya, bye. And I went in and shut the door, and I was like, okay, I'm going to have this meeting right now. And I think in learning, I guess a good takeaway from that was two things. Was one, when I got on the call, it was really important for me to just actually be transparent with the fact that, hey, I'm actually overseas. I am in Tokyo at the moment. I'm hopping on the call. I'm in a co-working space, and being okay with sharing that knowledge with the people that you're meeting with, and not feeling like you need to pretend like I'm still, in Melbourne or something like that. But secondly, again, being mindful of time zones. Definitely having a great EA is very, very helpful. But I think for me, again, we were just kind of underestimating the time it takes to get to certain places, especially in Japan, because the train system is so confusing. And building in more buffer time is a big lesson for us, because we were very ambitious with where we were going to be versus reality, and therefore all the timings kind of went a bit funny.
Sort of like a time, when we're talking about my run sheet on this holiday, is it doesn't necessarily run to the minute or run to the hour. It's a bit flexible, as such. And when we're talking about destinations and traveling, wow, in Japan you do have to give it a lot more buffer time, especially if you're having large groups with prams.
Yes, escalators. Oh my lord.
With prams, you're not really supposed to use the escalators, which then makes accessibility really hard in Japan, because there's one escalator service, the train line at times, and just trying to find these exits are crazy hard. I mean, I don't know if everyone's watched this movie or series called Exit 8, but it's pretty much a game show when you go in there and you're trying to find – it's a maze where you're trying to find your exit out of a train station. We
literally – the amount of times that we've been in a train station and we were trying to find a damn lift so that we could push the pram in there, and then ended up walking to the next stop and then realizing literally the next station, right? And then realizing, our ticket doesn't work because you've purchased it at the other gate, and then needing to swap the ticket, or actually literally walking back to the right spot was so confusing and extremely frustrating at the best of time. We thought we were pretty good at navigating maps, but Japan train lines definitely gave us a run for our money.
Yep.
Yeah. I think one of the funniest moments we had was when we went back to Vietnam. So we went to Vietnam for a few days, had a bunch of meetings, had our event, went to Japan, spent about 2.5 weeks or so, had a bunch of meetings, did the roadshow, Disneyland, the whole shebang. And then we went back to Vietnam for the last few days, which we then had a couple of more meetings to go, but by that point it was a bit more relaxing. And the idea was that we were going to celebrate Jordan and Jeslin's first and third birthday with our entire Vietnam family. So I had, you may not know this, but Vic, you certainly do. I love ordering pretty looking cakes for the kids' birthdays, or in fact any occasions. And I specifically found this amazing cake baker in Vietnam months in advance, before we even got to the country, I already Instagrammed her, I've messaged, I've liaised with her. I said, I picked out the design, exactly what I wanted. And I was like, wow, it's so affordable. And I arranged everything, and the 2 cakes were stunning. And then, of course, we got to the party, and this was literally I think it was the last night before we flew out. And we had our whole entire family, so it was about 30-something people. And for a bit of context, it's actually really hard to get my Vietnam family to do anything other than either visit us in home at my auntie's place or go to work. I think it's definitely the Vietnamese mentality. They're very much the hustle mindset. They don't want to go and celebrate fun or, go to fancy restaurants or anything. So it was very hard to actually get them to come to this dinner. So I had 30 aunties and uncles and cousins there. And my 2 beautiful cakes, and our kids were having a great time. And then it came down to the end of the night, right, when we were like, you said to me, let's clear the tables and do the birthday cake, singing and photos and things. And you were like telling them to move the tables here and, arrange nice space and everything. And then it came down to the last minute, and from afar I could see my 2 beautiful cakes at the bar table, not on the table that we wanted it to be, and they were slicing into it. And I think it was you and Nancy that was like, oh, my God, is that our cakes getting chopped up?
Yeah. I was like, why are they bringing it over to the bar for? And because we haven't even sang happy birthday, haven't put the candles in, haven't blown the candles, haven't taken any photos, and I don't know why they brought it over and thought that we're chopping up the cake now.
Yes.
Before any of that happened. But, it went into a very quick stop cutting the cake scenario.
And I think everyone looked at me because they knew how much I was very passionate about my birthday cakes. And I just looked at him and I was like, I could literally see him slice the cake in half. And I had to say to him in Vietnamese, stop what you're doing. Like, why are you cutting up the cakes? And in that moment, I distinctively remember Nancy, my sister, bless her soul, looked at me and she's like, oh, and she's kind of like, shit, Julie, you're going to lose it. And mind you, it's been such a big couple of weeks of travel, and there's been so many things that, was so stressful in amongst everything else. A lot of fun, but also a lot of stress. I was really I had a choice then. I was like, okay, I'm either going to lose my mind at this guy who just sliced up my beautiful cake that my daughter hasn't even blown the candle for, or I'm going to just calmly handle the situation. Especially knowing that I think our Vietnam family was really finding it challenging to come out to the restaurant as well. It was definitely a fork in the road kind of moment where I was like, oh, it could go down one way or I could go down the other way. Thankfully, I chose to handle it in a very calm manner. And I think having done 3.5 weeks worth of travels and all of the other things we experienced, by that point, my calmness level in handling unexpected situation was perfection. At this point, I was like, it's fine. You're cutting the cake. Okay, no worries. Let's deal with it. We'll just take photos from a different angle. I'm not going to be angry at you. You're least on the priority list. And I think on reflection, we had a giggle about it in the car and everything afterwards as well. And everyone was like, oh, I was expecting you to really lose it. But I think on reflection, it really comes down to how you choose to control your emotions at that point in time. And I know it might sound very simple about, it's just a birthday cake, but in that moment, there was definitely frustration and anger versus how am I going to just deal with this? And am I going to choose to make a good experience out of it? Yep. And I think, no matter what happens on our travel and in life and in business, it's all about that, right? How you choose to react to a situation will give you the outcome of whether it's going to be a nice experience or a bad one. Yep. And I think for me in that moment, I chose to make it a nice experience because there was absolutely nothing I can do. Couldn't put the cake together again. But I thought it was just a really interesting realization.
Yeah. I mean, looking at this is really interesting. I'm probably a lot more calmer in this situation than you were, but I did realize that you would be one that would be very disappointed.
Yes.
Because this is these cakes and these moments are really special, and we also have a videographer, photographer there, taking these pictures and everything for us and documenting our event, or our kid's birthday in this case.
Yeah, it was a big deal for me.
It was a big deal, and and in Vietnam, a first birthday is a really big deal as well. So it's not nothing small. Where we this takes a lot of training, but it is all down to the mindset that we're talking about, right? Is there's decisions that people would need to make on what they can and cannot do, and how they actually control their emotions and what their thought processes are. For me, myself, how do I deal with this situation is, okay, what's the worst that can happen? Okay, we don't have photos, or we can't do this, or we had 2 cakes because both our child's birthdays are a week apart, so we celebrate both of them together. Is like, how destroyed is this cake? What can we salvage? What can we still use for documentation? Can we still blow out a candle on it, and all those types of things? So all the logical thoughts come into my brain and said, how bad is it? Is it really life and death situation? Do we need to go into extreme measures? And my answer is no. So that obviously then goes, okay, my mindset goes, you're still calm. It's okay. It's a mistake, but we can still do A, B, C. So my logic brains comes in. And I think, what's probably gone through your head also is some of this mentality, where it's like, you looked at your surroundings, who's going to be affected by the way that you act is really important, because you're talking about close family members, staff at the restaurant, people around the restaurant as well. And would this affect reputation and all those type of things? So when we're taking a look at these situations and how we choose to react is whether we go, okay, we're calm, it's okay, or whether we blow up and make a situation out of it is actually under the person's control, and how other people react is up to them. So it's really interesting how you reacted, and I believe that it is a lot of training that happens for you to react that way.
Yeah. I definitely think that it was a good choice in what I did and didn't do that night. But definitely, as you say, it's about practicing, and you can only get good at handling your emotions if you keep practicing every single time and being able to catch yourself out on those moments. So definitely a learning experience. And by that point, honestly, we were so exhausted from all the travels that we did that we then knew we also then had another week of Dubai as well. So, we flew back to Melbourne with the kids, with the whole family. And then you and I had to jet off to Dubai by ourselves this time for a week of business and meetings and coaching and mentorship as well. And I think, Dubai again was another experience for us, because we've never been to the Middle East. Didn't really know what to expect culturally. Actually, that's a lie. I had some preconceived expectations of what I was thinking the country would be like, but I'm definitely blown away by the culture and what we saw, and the mentality and mindset that people had towards business and entrepreneurship. And that was a huge eye-opener. Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the things that we learned from Dubai is how forward-thinking they are. In Dubai, they're really thinking about what the next 50 years as a goal for their whole entire city, and every person that lives there is part of this journey, which is really exciting for them. And you can see how the progressive way that they've treat everything into that particular goal, the way they build structures, the way they treat customers, the way they service people. It's really interesting to see, and I feel like we've learnt a lot in terms of what opportunities, how they do business when they think of things is they want to do things the best that they can, as well as being, the leaders in the world in doing
The
things.
confidence is palpable in the city. It wasn't just like, okay, let's try something and like be okay at it. They were like, no, I'm going to be the best. It was non-negotiable, and we really felt that in obviously how the city is built, but the conversations that we had as well. Like we were meeting people, and you'd sit down, and normally you'd learn a little bit more about them and their families, and build rapport. Much as we have in Vietnam and Japan, but in Dubai, it was very much straight up like, how do we partner?
Yeah.
What do you look for in a partnership?
Yes.
And I think that really shocked us a little bit, because we were like, wow, okay, it's like cut the small talk and straight to business. And that's really speaks volume about their culture of like, we're not here to muck around. We're here to stay, and we're here to be the best.
And also they're so willing to help as well. Like that's probably where it surprised me is like they don't hold on to any secrets or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not gated.
It's not gated. It's not protected. It's like if you need help, tell us what it is and we'll help you. In terms of everyone that we've met, it's like, how do we partner? How do we do more together? How do we achieve more in terms of our visions and our goals and, what we're trying to achieve and how they can help in this. And when we're talking on a very similar wavelengths on the values that we have, it's actually very similar. It's just the way they do things differently and how we do things differently. But when we're starting to see collaborations on how our organizations can help each other, that really makes a difference on why it's an interesting country to actually consider doing business in or partnering up in, because it's all very progressive and exciting things happening over there.
Yeah, definitely. So watch this space, because JTPM is definitely going global, and we'll be hitting up these countries very, very soon. So can't wait to share more on that. But as we round out our episode and our month long of, fun things that also went wrong on our trip, what would be your key takeaway or advice, Vic, for anyone who is wanting to bring their entire gang with them when they're traveling and doing business at the same time?
I think plan it well, because there is the requirement of rest days and things like that for the family. So if you can, consider longer stays or, making sure that you have very divided days on business and as well as fun, so that it's well planned. Expect some unexpected things to happen. So what happens when your plan needs to change, I think is really important to be flexible in that, and having these rest days are good, because basically if something happens on one day, you can probably push your schedules around a bit to make all of your activities work. The one thing that we've learned from the hospital experience is probably it only really takes one person to make the whole experience change for better or worse. And when we're bringing this back into our organizations, our business, our culture here in Australia, is how does that reflect on everything that we do? So, making sure that everyone is really looking at the customer service side even greater and further, and really trying to lean on being helpful is really that important, because it can change people's perspectives really quickly, especially when you're entering into different countries and expectations there. That's my takeaways. How about yours?
I think for me is the fact that you can do it. I think, obviously the trend at the moment is the digital nomad kind of lifestyle, and but the reality is you don't have to be young, single, no kids to live that lifestyle. We're extremely grateful that we were able to do that, to take our whole family, our kids with us. And although today we're sharing the things that did go wrong, but there was actually so many fun moments as well. Like, being able to switch and, wake up early, take the calls, do the meetings, do the deals, and then in the afternoon, like actually be in another country, like eating delicious food, spending time with family. And then the next day we're off to, Universal Studio, Disneyland, and exploring a brand new country. I just think this mindset, especially for women as well, like you definitely don't need to be doing it whilst you're young and single with no kids. You can definitely do it in the way that we've been building our lives now, as husband and wife with 2 little children, very young family, and jet off for a month and work abroad and do all of that. While we were in Dubai, although we didn't bring our kids, some of the other entrepreneurs that we were with did, and they handled it by having, nannies and whatnot. So there's definitely solutions. And I think, both of us, the biggest takeaway I feel is that over the past month, being able to be away from Melbourne really shifted our perspective. Like just being able to see things from a different angle, seeing different countries, how they do things, obviously brought a sense of inspiration, but also a real perspective of like, wow, you're so deep in the trenches when you're here at home, for us in Melbourne. But when you're abroad and you're in a different country, you can be more removed from what day-to-day looks like and realize that you can design a life however you want and you can design a business however you want. And there are people doing it. So definitely, the fact that the possibility is, yes, we can do it. I'm definitely keen to be planning our 2026 trip, that's for sure. And looking forward to doing it again, which will be heaps of fun. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's it for an episode.
Yep.
And we can't wait to be back next fortnight with another one. So thank you so much for tuning in, and we look forward to hearing from you again.
See you guys.
That was a random.